you guys, how's it going? So I just wanted to address something that I have been hearing a lot about lately, and I don't know if people are saying it to me like in a legit question or if they're like trying to throw shade or you know, whatever. Either way, it's a great topic to talk about because I think that opening the discussion about pregnancy and like what you do in those first few moments when you find out that you're pregnant is super, super important. I have been getting some comments about the fact that I like don't take pregnancy tests with my husband, and that on my miscarriage video that I didn't take him with me to the doctor in the beginning. If you're not familiar with my story, I had a miscarriage in December. When I first found out that I was pregnant, I wanted to make sure that everything was healthy. I had actually had an IUD placed that had actually like come out of my body on its own without me knowing. I wanted to make sure that everything was fine. Like if I was pregnant and I still had an IUD in place, I wanted to know. The pregnancy was also not planned. The first topic at hand is why I don't take pregnancy tests with my husband in the room. So the first reason is because I love the idea of like surprising him with a cute way of telling him. And that is something that I cannot do if he's in the bathroom with me taking the test. Second, I am a chronic pregnancy test taker when we're trying for a baby, and a lot of the time I will take pregnancy tests like 7 days after ovulation. I know, like it's very rare that it would be positive at that point. I know that, I'm well aware. That doesn't mean that I don't take them. If you are someone who is TTC or was TTC and you took a lot of pregnancy tests, make sure you leave that down in the comments below. I'd love to know that I'm not alone, but I don't take him in there every single time because it'd be like, dude, like come in here every day for the next like 14 days or something. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. My husband, it's not that he doesn't care. That's not it at all. But like he would just rather know when I'm pregnant. Like he would just rather know all of that and just be able to process that information then. If let's say we were trying for another baby and I was telling him that I was pregnant, he's not the kind that's gonna like jump up and down and get really excited right at first. He's gotta kind of like process that information, even if it's something that he knows that is coming. So I want to give him an opportunity to process that as well. So I don't take pregnancy tests with my husband in the room. It's not like he couldn't come in. That's not it at all, but it's just not something that we do as a couple. It's also not to say if you do have your husband come in when you take a pregnancy test that it's wrong, because we are all living our like best life. We are all living and doing the things that are best for our family and that are best for us and our like well-being. And this is just something that, you know, I do on my own. Also, kind of the last reason is I need a minute to process it. So even if it's something, again, that we are trying for, I need a minute to kind of wrap my head around it before I have to actually discuss it with somebody else. I like to know that being pregnant is something that only I know for either like a day, a few days, maybe even a week. I like knowing that it's just something that I have just to myself. Like when we were trying for Harrison, I already had a child. I had an 8-year-old child at the time. And I also, you know, had my husband and my family are close by. There was never gonna be another moment when I was gonna get to have that kid, that baby all to myself. When people know about a baby, they get really excited and they're either like rubbing your belly or asking you questions or, you know, telling you what you should eat during your pregnancy to help you. You know, it's not like they're doing it maliciously, but there's never another moment where you're gonna have just you and the baby. Even when you're giving birth, you're gonna have your midwife and you're gonna have your husband, and that is just something that I like. I like knowing that I'm pregnant just by myself, you know, to process it, but also just to have that time where I'm the only person in the world that knows that that baby exists. And maybe that's weird, but that's just something that I really like. I don't necessarily feel like I need to explain myself, but I feel like I've been hearing this a lot. Like, why wasn't your husband there? Why did you wait so long to tell him? Like, and that refers to the miscarriage video. I actually waited like a week to tell Brian because it was kind of a stressful situation. That brings me to that. I heard not heard, obviously I can't hear because you're not talking to me. Well, not with your voice. But anyways, I read a comment that said like something along the lines of, you shouldn't have waited that long to tell your husband, he should have gone to the doctor with you, etc, etc. In addition to that comment, they also said something like, that must mean that you don't have a very good relationship, I've heard that you're in counseling, blah 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 blah. So number one, like whoever this person is does not know my relationship, and if you are someone who was in a similar situation to me, don't ever let somebody make you feel bad for not taking your husband to the doctor with you. Okay, when I was pregnant with Harrison and we were trying, it was a very rare occasion that Brian could go to the doctor with me. I think he went to like one ultrasound. He might have gone to like 1 or 2 midwife appointments, but he worked full time and so did I. So I scheduled appointments when I could schedule them, and if he could make it over, that's awesome. If he didn't want to come over, that's also awesome. I think just being in a hospital and doctor environment kind of makes him a little bit uncomfortable, which I think that it does to most of us. Not taking him to an appointment is, in my mind, like not a huge deal. I don't mind going by myself. They're actually kind of boring. I'm not the woman that has to drag my husband to a doctor's appointment of any kind. And if your husband went to every single one of your appointments when you were pregnant, that's awesome. That is great for you guys, but that is just not something that I was gonna stress over. That was not something that I was going to like force him to do. And then coming back to what happened during my miscarriage when I didn't take him to the doctor, I didn't take him because, and in my mind, I wanted to give him all of the information. So again, we weren't trying to get pregnant, and so it was a big surprise. We were actually preventing pregnancy, and so it was a huge surprise, and I don't know if I went about it the correct way or not, but number one, I was terrified. Like, I was actually really scared, and I think that that's okay. It was a scary situation and it was a scary feeling, and that's okay. So those feelings are super normal, and I handled that situation in the way that was best for me. I was the one who was pregnant. Yes, of course, my husband is the father of my children and he deserves to be as involved as he wants to be or can be. I needed to have time to process, number one. I also, again, liked knowing that I was the only one who knew I was pregnant, and then I needed all the information about what was going on. If I still had an IUD in place, I needed to be able to tell him that. If I no longer had an IUD in place, I needed to tell him that too. If I would have just like peed on a stick and had 2 lines and then told him, there would have been so many questions that I couldn't answer, and it could have caused him undue stress in those days when I was going to get that information. You know, trying to schedule an ultrasound can take a long time. It can take several days. Trying to get in to see your doctor also can take several days, and there was no reason for him to worry. If I was going to miscarry, which I did anyway, there was no reason for him to worry. I would have just told him, you know, I am pregnant, but I'm miscarrying. I am pregnant, but I still have an IUD, and these are our options. I am pregnant and I don't have an IUD. This is my thoughts on it. Let's discuss. That is just what works best for my family. Again, if that's not what works best for your family, that's great. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I would never approach a stranger on the street and tell them what was the correct way to take a pregnancy test. What is the correct way to talk to your husband about a new pregnancy? I would never approach somebody on the street and say those things. And I would also never leave a comment on somebody's video about that, especially on a miscarriage video. Like, that's pretty insensitive. So again, I don't know if that question was meant in good faith. It didn't feel like it was meant as a legitimate question. It felt like it was meant to be hurtful. But no matter what you choose to do as far as like when you tell your husband you're pregnant, how you tell him, there are so many ways to go about it, but this is just the right way for me. And it's something maybe you want to think about if you are trying to conceive. Maybe you have an idea of what you want to do. Maybe you feel like you will need that support with your husband there, like watching the tests go by together, that kind of thing. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe you are like me and you need to know that you're pregnant, and only you need to know, and you just need that time to be with that little baby. And that is great too. Like, we are all moms, we are all people in this world, and I think that the bottom line here is that we need to quit passing judgment on one another. We need to start building each other up and giving each other love instead of like tearing each other down for these tiny little things. But it was just a comment that I saw that really stuck with me, and I wondered if other people had similar questions, because I didn't really go into detail about that in that miscarriage video. And I didn't really go into detail about it in Harrison's birth story or anything like that, because I wasn't on YouTube when I was pregnant with him. So that's my story of, I guess, how I take pregnancy tests and how I like to share the news with my husband. If you like to also share the news with your husband a little bit later, you can leave that down in the comments below. If you want to have a friendly discussion about why I chose it, or if you have additional questions, feel free to leave that down in the comments below as well. Or if you have a completely different story and again, you need something completely different, please also leave that down in the comments below, because I can definitely hear a great story and I can definitely see the other perspective as well. Just know that this is what worked well for me, and let's just leave our judgment at the door. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new here and you're just stopping by, hi, my name is Caitlin and welcome to Beans and Monkeys. I would love it so much if you would hit that red subscribe button down below and become a member of our BAM fam. If you are one of my BAM fam folks, hi, thank you so much for coming back and continuing to support my channel. You guys are a growing community. Like, our community is growing so quick right now, and I love that so very much. So thank you guys so much for all of the love and support, and here is your internet hug for the day. And if you want to find me on other social sites, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and all of that information is linked down in the comments below. Just right down there, or not the comments, it's in the description box below. Okay, you guys, and with that, by the way, have fun today.